Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show. It's Steve and Adam.
I'm Steve.
Hey,
That's Adam.
Steve. What's up, buddy?
Not much about yourself.
Hanging in there. Let's just act like we haven't been talking for the last 2 hours.
What are you talking about? We haven't been.
Let's catch up.
This is new, and we're having a lot of fun here.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
Hello, audience. Hey, just want to say thanks for those of you who have been joining us for the new reboot on the channel. We've gotten lots of really great feedback. So keep the comments coming. I think for like 5 years worth of videos, this is the highest number of comments and likes and things that we've had consistently on our content. So we at least feel like you guys are engaging more. I don't know if you're liking it more or not, but you're at least commenting more and giving us, telling us what you want to see. So appreciate it. Keep it coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so today we're going to continue our journey down the device provisioning path. So now it doesn't matter really which order you're watching these in, except maybe this one matters a little bit. So we're going to release a macOS video, or we will have released it by the time you watch this.
Last week's. Go watch it. We'll wait.
Yeah, we oopsed just a little bit. We had hoped to break these into the right chunks, but anyway, on the macOS video, we talk through all of the Apple Business Manager integration components that tie into Intune. Those are all going to be prerequisites for the steps that we're going to do today, whatever time it is.
Now, in this video.
So you'll need to go and walk through the macOS provisioning, even if you're only doing iOS. Sorry about that. We could reboot again, but just go watch the other one. We're gonna screw up like this other times. This is how it is. So go watch those.
If you're new to the channel, this is normal.
Yeah, yeah, this is absolutely normal. So go watch those that video. Get up to speed on all of the bits and pieces that go into getting your Apple Business Manager connected to Intune. So the video today, at this moment, is going to focus on provisioning your iOS mobile device. So Steve's got an iPhone over there, and we are going to get all the basic pieces configured and set up so that we can get this thing provisioned and managed by Intune.
So right off the top, to save all the comments and the questions around our setup of what we actually have configured to capture the videos from the device, because we'll be doing screen shares and screen capture. Not a single person's
going to ask this question, but go ahead, Steve.
Every single time we get a question on it. So what we have set up here is an ATEM Mini from Blackmagic Designs. With the
not sponsored, but we will take your money if you want to send us some.
And then we have the Apple Lightning to HDMI adapter that is required at the moment.
You don't have an iPhone 15 with USB-C, Steve?
I'm not lucky enough to have an iPhone 15 yet. Literally went on pre-sale today, so we'll get that.
We should put some hashtags in this video so that we get more clicks around iPhone 15.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we go.
iPhone 15 into Intune.
So Steve's using an ATEM Mini and Lightning to HDMI cable to set up so we can watch the
and then we're recording it and presenting it back using a product called OBS that renders it onto a second screen so we can actually see it all there. I know this is probably not the stuff you want to talk about, but it's the conversation we have quite often because there's no easy way to capture the image of an iPhone or an Android. This is how you do it.
And let's face it, sometimes you do need to record this or demo this for people in your company and you want to do this. So, there's great options there. Feel free to email. It's Steven. Go ping him on Twitter at on-prem cloud guy. If you got more questions around that stuff. He will love it. You will regret it. But go ahead. He never shuts up about it. Okay, let's go. So let us provision an iPhone now.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share my screen, Adam. Let me set up the right display. So the reason why I'm going to do it because I have Apple Business Manager set up in my environment.
And I can't log in.
We're not going to go down that route. So what you'll note is we have our list of mobile phones. We went through setting up the Apple Business Manager previously, as Adam aforementioned. And today we're going to be working on my iPhone XR. If you have newer devices, we won't say no to donations. So if we go here and we're going to go and select our new MDM server, and we're just going to continue. What we're saying is we're assigning that device to the Intune training MDM tenant.
Now, as you're doing that, I would like to point out that there is a setting within the Apple Business Manager configuration where you can set the default MDM server for newly purchased, newly added devices. And when you do that, then you wouldn't need to go and manually assign. He's got to unshare because it's going to show PII whenever he does this. So stand by.
Yeah.
We as if we've been down this path before.
So this is where your MDM servers, you can go to your MDM server assignment and you hit edit, and you can go and assign where you want each of these to go and what you can do. What you will note is there's, and I just want to call it out, is there's iPod and Apple TV. Both of those don't fall into the Intune management space today.
Or probably ever. At least the iPod.
I'm sure. We'll go with that. Although I think the iPod should work because it's just using iOS. Whether it's supported iOS, that's a good question. Apple TV is running a separate operating system that Intune doesn't have support for today. Cool.
All right, so we've got a device uploaded. Now, okay, so for the folks that maybe aren't connected or they don't have their purchasing connected to ABM, how would someone enroll a device into ABM?
So what you would use is on any other iPhone, you go and install the Apple Configurator application in your admin account. And from there, you can then go and use it like you would your Apple Watch or any other device to be able to capture that and connect it in. So what we'll do is we'll actually go through that in a later video because there's a step that's, let's get the device actually registered with the assumption that it's there, and then we can talk about using Apple Configurator at a later date because there's some other really cool features associated with that.
And that's a new change that didn't exist when we went through this first time because you had to use a Mac to do it and all this other stuff. So this is a good deal.
Yeah, and obviously you can still use the Mac scenario, but you can now do it without all of that, and it makes your life super, super, super simple. So this is where we're going to talk through that maybe when I get my hands on an iPhone 15, and we'll go through that process. So that's just where that one scenario is at and how that all works.
Maybe we should hold a raffle on the channel, but then
a reverse raffle.
We win.
Yeah.
How do we make that work?
I don't know. I believe it's called donations.
All right, carry on, sir.
Cool. So we've got our device registered now, and we're saying to go to the Intune tenant. Over here in Intune, what we're going to do is we're going to go to devices, and you'll note that we're using the new device pane because we're going to try and push ourselves to use that. If we select iOS and iPadOS, you'll see that we've got 0 devices there. We're going to select that. You'll note that there's no Macs there either. That's because I moved and repurposed that device from last week. I'm not lucky enough to have multiple Macs. From there, we're going to select the iOS and iPadOS enrollment. And the thing to note is iOS and iPadOS are fundamentally the same, but nuanced differently. So there are functionality that exists in iPadOS that doesn't exist in iOS and vice versa. But from a provisioning of applications, configuration, and enrollment, for the most part, it's going to work exactly the same. And unless you explicitly say, don't do iPad, it's going to go and apply to your iPad devices. So it's an important thing to understand. So last week we went through and we set up that enrollment program token. And you'll see that we've still got that there for the Apple Business Manager. So that's set up for all Apple devices. When we step into here, we then will see that we've still only got one device removed and one device ready for enrollment. So if we go to devices, you'll see that we still only have our macOS device. This we can delete because it's not in the profile anymore, but we'll leave that for the moment. Before we go through and do our sync, we're going to go and create our iOS, iPadOS policy. The reason is because we want to make sure that policy exists before it goes and calls into the MDM provider, so we don't have the same issue we had with macOS where it picked up no profile. So in here, we're going to go iOS default profile. And the thing to note that we're talking through here is we're saying these are managed devices. These are corporate owned devices. We'll in a later video talk through the process of doing the BYOD or the light touch scenario, but this is where we're sitting there and saying we're doing a fully managed device. And I think that's important to call out, obviously. So we're assuming that it's always going to be user affinity in our model because we like the user affinity, but you can go and use without user affinity and do some cool stuff. And then there's the shared mode as well, where you can do SSO, and it gets even more complicated. But for what we're using today is we're going to use the enrolled user affinity, and we're going to go and use setup assistant with modern authentication. So Adam, do you know the difference between all three of these?
So one of them, so the company portal would mean that we would basically provision, we would get a device and go through the setup. Then we would go install company portal manually from the App Store as we're already logged in with our personal Apple ID or whatever. And then you'd go to company portal to go and enroll. No. Okay. So no, I don't have a clue.
So this is where if you select company portal, we're not going to allow you to do anything on that device until you've signed into the company portal application. So you'll go through the out-of-box process. You'll say that you're an organization, but then it will go, it's locked until you go through company portal.
So, so basically the enrollment experience would be company portal and setup assistant would be essentially the look and feel the same all the way through, with the exception that the company portal mode still would require you to go to company portal to sign in the first time.
Yeah, and there's a period of time where it will just sit there and go, you can't use this device until company portal set up.
Oh, interesting.
And this is where using the setup assistant with modern authentication is the better way of doing that. Because what we're saying is we're going to do it natively with the Apple engine and go through that whole process. Why you need to select with modern authentication is because we want to make sure that MFA and conditional access policies are adhered to, whereas the legacy one doesn't handle that correctly.
All right.
So we've selected model.
But you're saying that the company portal method is not as nice of an experience?
Yep, that's correct.
But then later with the other method here, with this one, the user would have to go sign into company portal at some point.
I don't believe so. Because it'll automatically download the profile and set everything up. So we've already set up our VPP. So for those who are playing along at home, VPP is the volume purchasing program from Apple. We've deployed those applications, and if we go up here, let's quickly triple check if we go to our apps and businesses so that we're back in the Apple Business Manager portal. We're now going to go here, and the most important application we're going to use in this scenario is going to be the aforementioned company portal. The reason for that is because it gives us visibility of everything that's going on the device.
Oh, so what you'll see here, we tried to do this for the macOS video last time, and I got backwards and confused. And basically, there is no company portal VPP app for macOS.
That's correct.
But there is one.
Yeah, to deploy it via a script. Yeah, for iOS, there's a lot more controls. And what you'll note here is all of the additional iOS apps. And there's the aforementioned Apple configurator as well. And we've got that published into our application and available. So we'll be able to deploy that in our later videos as well. So we've got our...
Double check the location, because isn't that our old location or is it the new one?
No. So these locations are separated from the MDM. So how Apple Business Manager works is you create a location for each organization, basically, that you're wanting to run inside your tenant. Or if you have different managers, different Intune or MDM platforms 4 different sites, this is where you can sit there and create that separation.
No, I just meant make sure that we don't have our old MDM as the location. No. This is the new one now. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because it's tied at a lower level.
Okay. Cool. Yep.
Yes.
Steve's on the ball. Yeah. I'm asking all the questions.
It's all good. That's important questions to ask, right? So now we've gone and we're going to say, yep, we're using our admin at intunetraining.appleid.com. Hopefully it'll still work. From here, is it supervised? Yes or no? So supervised means that basically you can do more controls, but you can't change it without resetting the device. This is where you've got a corporate-owned device and you don't want your staff members to be able to remove the Intune policies scenario. And then you've also got the whole locked, which means that you can't remove it. So supervised means that they can't change it. Locked means they can't remove the profile. We can enable whether we're going to allow sync with computers. I'm going to say sync and allow, because in our scenario, we may need to reset the device and things like that using the Apple, which will make our life a lot easier. Otherwise, what you can do is you can go with Apple by certificate, and then you upload a certificate to go, hey, Apple Configurator has the ability to connect. And this is where you can put those controls in place. So we're just going to set that to allow all, await final. And this is where we're sitting there and going, don't allow sign in until, or don't allow usage of the device until provisioning is completed. You can actually sit there now and go, no, and get your staff member up and running a lot quicker, which is awesome.
That's the same kind of deal what we can do with autopilot and waiting for provisioning the ESP to finish and all that.
Yep. So these components here are all brand new from when we last looked at this, even 12 months ago. It's really awesome. You can now go in here as a supervised device and put a device name on there automatically. So you don't have a list of iPhone all the way down your list and then having to figure out the serial number associated to that. So this is going to make life a lot easier for your admins. And then you can go in here and you can do that cellular activation where it will automatically activate a plan for you. Obviously, this will be based upon a URL that your provider has provided to you. We don't have that. We're not lucky enough. So we're going to skip. Oh, okay. I thought that would just do the default. Okay.
Just literally just copy it off the screen. But hey, whatever. We'd much prefer to watch you mistype it.
Yes. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
You get to be critical this week. I was critical last week. Cool.
That's what we do.
Exactly. So this is now where you can go in and set your department and department phone. This is how you provide support to your end user when they go through that about config page and things like that. Previously, this was one for your whole organization, and for some reason, some people didn't like that. So now you can do it by department, and you create a separate profile for each department and assign the device to that. So we're going to call this the exec team. And the phone number is going to be
867-5309.
867
5309.
5309. Okay.
Is that song?
No,
do you not know that song?
No.
Oh, come on.
And then we can go through and we can do a whole heap of stuff here. So we definitely don't want device-to-device migration because we don't need it. We don't need an Android. Sorry, I did the same last time. Let's start from the top and we'll come down to the bottom. Passcodes, location services, they're useful. We definitely want passcodes. We don't want restore. We're going to leave Apple ID because we have managed Apple IDs-ish. We have terms and conditions. We're going to auto accept those. We're going to automatically handle diagnostic data and send that up. Display tone, I definitely want a prompt. They want dark or light mode. Privacy, we're going to hide. We're going to hide the SIM setup.
There you go. Helping you out. That's the name of the song.
Okay.
And the artist. It's important. It's important.
Yes. Cool.
Right, go back up. So the location services, just want to point this one out.
Yes.
So we talked about it a little bit in the last video, but if you don't make it through that one, this one's important because if you, and it's even still important that you make sure that the user accepts it. So if you set it to hide, any of these things that you set to hide, it defaults to the more privacy flavored, the most restrictive privacy settings. So if you set it to hide, it's not going to enable location services.
Unless you go and send out a policy separately for it.
Can you force that later on an iPhone?
I believe so.
I don't think so, but okay. That'd be neat if you could.
Watch if you can, that's great. Video where we talk about it.
But I know that if you have this set to show, it allows the user to still say, no, I don't want to do my location. But if you set it to hide, it turns it off. And so, just keep that in mind as you're doing this. If you want specific things to be forced on, you need to make sure that you're supervising the enrollment, basically.
Yep. The thing to note as well, as soon as this device is in Apple Business Manager, it's not tied to the user's account. So you no longer have to go to Apple and get your proof of purchase to get the device unlocked. This is how you handle that, and that's why we're doing Device Business Manager. So we've created our profile. It's quite simple-ish. We're creating this, and it's just going to go through that process. We're then going to select the default because this is going to be our default iOS profile. Can we go and create other profiles? Yes. And we then just assign them as needed, and we'd go through from there. So you'll see our device still hasn't appeared here. So we're just going to do a sync, and it should come through pretty quickly. So there is our red iPhone XR. So I'm just going to quickly give it a power cycle because it's already been on my Wi-Fi because I've been trying to make sure that I can display it in the when connected to the ATEM because it was being temperamental last week. So I'm just going to pop that up and I'm going to put that onto the display now. What we should see is that one there. And I'm just waiting for that to load up and it should appear on the screen and we should see that out-of-box experience. And it has not, so just bear with me. And what we're going to do is we're going to quickly pause. It was just a timing issue on the iPhone. You just have to give it a bit of time and then it will load up on the screen. So what you'll see is now we have it going through that out-of-box experience of going, hey, hello, it's me, in all different languages. So we're going to swipe up and we're going to select English as our language. I'm located in Australia. Obviously select the country that makes sense for you. I'm going to do setup manually. And continue. And no, this hasn't. And one thing I really do like about Apple is you'll see that I put in the passcode, but you didn't see the keyboard because it doesn't show you the keyboard when you're actually presenting it like this. So this hasn't gone through and picked up my device for some reason. So what I'm going to quickly do is I'm just going to quickly step through the process and then reset it again. Actually, cancel, where is it? It's all right, so what you can do is you can hold the power button on the right-hand side and you can just hit start again and it will erase the phone and it will start over. So this might take a little bit, so we may cut it if it takes too long. But this is basically wiping the phone and starting it over again. And we'll then go through that out-of-box experience again, and we'll be successful. Because for whatever reason, it just has not picked up the profile that was assigned to it. So I'm just going to go back over here to my VM. And what you'll see here is we can see that it hasn't picked up that profile. And that's why we're having this issue. So when you're doing your testing, make sure it's picked up the profile. So I'm just going to force the issue and go here and select my iOS, and I'm going to assign that. I'm going to hit refresh. And it's still waiting because there we go. Profile assigned now. So once the device comes up, we should be able to see that profile request. So while that phone's just booting up, let's go over here and we'll have a quick look at what we can do in the deployment of applications. So we're going to go, and we've already synced our VPP from last week. We went through that process. We connected it in the macOS video. And what you'll see in here is we're going to have all of our applications. So right now there's a large amount of applications in here for Android, macOS, iOS, and associated. What you'll also note is there are store apps, iOS store apps, as well as VPP applications. So the difference.
Ask me the difference between them, Steve.
Okay, Adam, what's the difference between them?
So if you push down the regular iOS store app, it will attempt to install the app, but it will prompt the user to put in their Apple Store credentials in order to, install it from the store. So it will basically ask the user for permission for each of the apps that you try to force down, which creates a really bad experience if you've got a handful of apps that you're trying to deploy onto a user. And then it also allows the user to potentially block the installation of that app until they've approved it. But if you take those same apps and you push them down through the volume purchase program flavor, it forces them all down automatically, seamlessly to the user, and doesn't ask them any questions.
Correct. And the other thing is if you deploy more than 6 of the store apps, it's going to sit there and basically queue them up after the 6th one, and it can cause issues and notifications. So where possible, and this is why you want to have registered devices, where possible, you want to do the VPP because your life's going to be a whole heap easier.
Yeah. And also, I think, the other piece of this is, even if you're not doing the VPP ones for whatever reason, making these apps available through the company portal instead of through the App Store on the device is also, I think, a really good step, because it helps give you that seamless experience across the, any of your devices that are going to be managed by Intune. Company portal is going to play a big part in that. And so if your user used to going to company portal on their Windows device, they're going to be used to hopefully going to it on their iOS device for support and to sync the device and all those sorts of things. So it just kind of helps drive the behavior there. But then, you don't have to put all of the apps that they potentially would ever want there. But if you put everything that your users would be interested in, it keeps the users from potentially having to even connect an Apple ID to the App Store altogether on these types of devices. And so if your users aren't comfortable with doing that, or they say, oh, I don't want to do it because I have to put in personal info, or I have to put purchasing info, or, those sorts of things. All of this allows you to kind of circumvent that by fully servicing the device from the company portal.
Yeah. And also, if there's a price associated with the app, the organization can pay it and then rip it off the device when the staff member leaves and things like that.
Yes. Oh, and what's really, actually, that's a good point too, as you go through this. So yeah, carry on here, because I like that ties directly in to the next bit.
So one thing to note here is we're just going to use the license group, which you can target to the user, because for our model, that works. One thing that I'll stress is for all applications can be made available on your iOS device, with the exception of Company Portal, because Company Portal is the app that presents the available applications.
Fun fact, far as I could tell, you don't actually have to deploy Company Portal
No, you
to
don't.
your supervised devices.
Correct.
So if you have a supervised, managed, enrolled device, Company Portal is going to come down. If you don't go do this, it's coming down anyway. So the question is, why then are we doing this?
Because we're doing the right thing.
But why is it the right thing, Steve?
Why
Shouldn't
indeed, Adam?
Shouldn't it just
Why
automatically
indeed?
come back down, Steve?
I would hope so.
But we've never tested it.
No, we've never tested it. So this is where we're going to make sure we're going to use the workflows that we know. So I'm just going to quickly step through a couple of the UX to see if it will pop up on the display again, because it's been temperamental.
If only it was USB-C.
Exactly. So just bear with me, viewers. Because it does work, it just can be temperamental, unfortunately. I think it also comes to the age of the phone.
Or the age of the user. You know, it's
What
been
are you
5
trying to
years
say?
since you did this the last time, so
I'd say
same
probably,
phone. It's the same phone.
I'd probably say 3 years.
Okay, yeah, it did take us a while to get here.
Yeah.
Would you like
And
me
the thing
to
is,
pause for a minute?
yeah, right. Let you do it.
All right,
Cool.
We got it.
We got it. It only took a couple of minutes. The device just had to sync and do some stuff in the background for whatever reason.
But hey, while he was doing that, I did double check the math here on the Company Portal installation. So there was a note. If you scroll back in the video, you'll even see it. Under the user affinity methods, there you go. It says Company Portal will be deployed as a required app to allow for device registration with Azure AD. So there you go. I knew I had read it somewhere, and I just wanted to prove it that it did say that.
So we didn't need to deploy it, but we have because we are good citizens, and we want to control everything that we're doing. So as you can see, we now have our iPhone up. We're going to open it up, and we're going to select English. We're going to select Australia, where I am. I've already connected this to the Wi-Fi because we were just trying to get it synchronized, but it's just the standard out-of-box experience and process at that point. From here, we're going to select, we can see our remote management, right? So it's going to be managed by Intune training, as you can see here. And we have remote management capabilities, install apps, backup data, and monitor traffic and other settings. That's only if you enable it. So if you don't enable those features, they don't apply. Just understand that and set that expectation with your staff members. So I'm going to quickly sign in with my Intune training account.
This screen right here, though, is a product of the setup assistant with Modern Auth, right?
Correct.
So if we didn't have that enabled, would we still get this prompt here?
Yes, to a point.
Okay.
It all comes down to what your identity provider is at that point. I do love the fact that I can see the password appear on the screen here, but you can't see what I'm typing in.
It's like they thought of the little things.
Yeah. Android's not like that, just so you understand, and we will be.
I mean, the fact that the phone knows that you are remotely sharing the screen and is doing something different on the remote screen, it's not truly mirroring it, is phenomenal.
Yep. It's really well thought through for demos and things like that.
Just think of the number of edits we wouldn't have had to do on our demos if that's the way Windows worked.
Yes. So as you can see, we're now just going through that final configuration from Intune training. So this will go through the process. We really should have put a capital T there. I don't know where that's coming from.
That's in Apple Business Manager, and we can't change it.
Okay. You've looked into this before, I'm guessing.
Most definitely.
I'm guessing this is where we are.
Don't say we. This is a Steve. This is where Steve did it. But yes, yeah, it's in a place we can't change.
Yes, I'm sure if we put in a support ticket, they would fix it for us. But do we care that far?
No, we do not.
All right, so now you can see here we have the ability to do our face recognition. I'm going to use get started, and you can see my glorious face. And we're going to do our little wave around the camera. And we're registering the device. And we're going to hit continue. And again, you guys can't see my pin, which is fantastic. So I can put in something that I am going to remember.
Good call.
So you'll see here we're now prompted for our Apple ID. I'm going to use my Intune training account. So if I can spell it right. You'll remember if you followed through last series, we actually had this set up with connected into federated identities. We've removed all of that, so this is not going to be my AAD password anymore.
And so this is just so at this point, if you had a brand new user in your company coming in to do this phone, they would need to go create an Apple ID because we don't have federated credentials enabled.
Yep.
And for various reasons, and they are. I think there's definitely some hurdles involved, and if you didn't federate the moment you created your tenant, you probably aren't going to be able to because it's impossible.
Well, you can. It just takes time and it's complicated.
Yeah.
All you can see here is I can't just sign in because I don't have an Apple ID. So I'm just going to go forgot password, and I'm going to set up later.
Oh, how about
I'm going to say don't use, because I'm not going to go through the process of setting that up, because we'll set up federation afterwards and we'll use it all in happy days.
Yeah.
So this is an awesome feature. Obviously, you as an admin, you can go and deploy a policy to control this. But me as a consumer, I can go in here and go, yep, automatically keep it up to date. I really want to keep my phone up to date. It's fantastic. We can set up Siri, choose for me. I don't care. Set up Hey Siri later. Continue.
Sorry, I can't help you with that.
And you probably just heard my iPad tell me something about Siri. So I'm going to hit not now. I'm definitely going to set up screen time. This is really cool. If you've got visualization issues, you can set it zoomed in or not. Me personally, I use the standard, but some people may want zoomed in. As you can see, there's no SIM attached to this. But through that whole process, it's gone and set it all up. Not a major concern for the end user. And you can see that the company portal's there. I need to sign in because I've not signed in previously. You can make this a little bit less impactful for the user. But in our scenario, we haven't set that up. So we're just needing to sign in.
And by that, you mean there's a way to get company portal to auto sign in?
Yeah, I believe so. Actually, what we're going to do before we do that is we're going to find settings. And we're going to go to general. And we're going to go down here. What you'll see is the VPN and device management. And we can select that. And you'll see that we have a management profile. Because I haven't set up much on here, and in this tenant, I don't have many policies in there, but you can see that it's come through. So it's pretty cool. Now we're just going to go back over to our company portal. And I'm sure Adam's frantically trying to prove me wrong.
Nope.
That it can still auto sign in.
No, I'm trying to get into my Apple Business Manager account because I want to.
Oh, okay.
I want to push it.
So
I can't.
Yeah. So yep, we're going to get notifications. I want the notifications. And this is already managed. So this is more just sitting there and going through the process because it thinks it's not managed, but it is managed. We saw that in the settings blade or settings page, and you can see device registration, and it's just going through the final processes. Can we streamline this? Yes, but we just haven't. And we're done. And you'll see that we have one device enrolled, which is this device. And we're going to, okay, there's an update available for the Intune, for the company portal. And notice the name of the device now, Adam.
Oh, look at that.
How cool is that? So now, when we go back over to Intune.
What if you hit rename?
Hang on. If I go to devices and I go to my iOS and iPhone OS or iPadOS, this is still synchronizing. So obviously it's synced it with the old name. And there you go, there's the new name. So in Intune now, what I should see eventually is that name will change to the iPhone dash serial number as the end user. So let's go back over here. If we go rename, demo. Yes, I can rename it.
Now, I think, so hit check status because that should sync it again. I believe that the rename setting is only to allow you to manage your personal device list in a meaningful way where you can name it for something that makes sense to you. But it shouldn't, I believe this is the way it works on the Windows devices, it shouldn't push the change into Intune. So from the admin side, your device should still maintain the name that you provided it on the admin side. But if you were to go into your like My Accounts portal and see all the devices registered to you, it would show the friendly name to you. Or even in the list here in Company Portal, it would show you your friendly name for you instead of the corporate name.
So if we go here, view device.
Oh, you can even see there when you scroll down.
The original name.
Original name, yeah.
So then if we go back over here, sorry, flick it over. I'm just going to hit sync on that device. We're going to refresh. And you can see it's still retaining that iPhone-G0NXM 2 name.
Sweet.
And if we go to managed apps, what we should see in here is we should see company portal, and it's actually saying waiting for install because it hasn't picked up that it's installed.
Okay, so I think I forgot on the apps. So when we were deploying company portal, there was a setting there that I wanted to talk about. If you wouldn't mind switching back over there.
Go over. We're in here, and we go
to all apps, not Windows,
iOS apps, and we go to company portal BPP.
Yeah, that's fine. So go to the properties of your assignment.
And we're going to go edit.
And
license
click on those. Yeah. So the thing I wanted to point out here is that the number one, and we'll probably go through this in a later video, but the VPN, you can set up a per app VPN tunnel, and it supports numerous VPN providers. Like my company uses Global Protect. It works. Tried it. It's seamless. It works. You've also got the built-in Microsoft tunnel. Many other providers out there. I haven't tried any of the other ones, but we'll probably cover that at a later video. But if you needed an app, like especially if you had a custom VPP app where somebody wrote a custom app, but it needed access to company resource or something, needed a VPN connection, this is where that would come into play. So very seamless, works nicely, highly recommend. But then if you needed to lock an app in to a specific version, where you like, especially we've got devices out in the field where we're very specific about like, hey, we can't just automatically update because we need to vet and test and things. So this is where that would come into play, where you needed to hold an app and prevent a specific update from applying to it. But then the others here, the install as removable, and then also be able to remove or uninstall on device removal. I think those are great settings where you can say, if like, especially if it's a purchased app, if you remove your device, I want I'm going to free up the license. I'm going to take my app back. You're not going to get a free app out of the deal. And so that's great. The install is removable. That one's great if you feel like this is an app that maybe occasionally we need to uninstall and reinstall for whatever purposes, or for those.
Or you explicitly do not want it removed because it removes all of the configuration that goes with the app.
Yeah, and so that's more specifically kind of the other way, right? And then preventing the iCloud backup. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. One of the things that we've looked at there is Authenticator, for example. If you push Authenticator out and you force Authenticator, Authenticator has a backup option. Well, one of the things about it is if I'm trying to promote the use of Authenticator for all of your multi-factor auth, so you've kind of got a centralized home for all of that stuff, but I block the ability to back it up, you can't back up your keys. And so if I give you a new corporate phone, or if I have to wipe and load you, I've completely blow away your Authenticator keys if you haven't backed them up some other way. So you have to be very specific on the apps that you do and don't target that stuff with. So just, some lessons from the field on some of those things. So think carefully on how you would like those things to be used. I think it's really easy to say, oh yeah, we want to block iCloud backup for everything that's, that we're pushing down on these devices. Like, well, maybe not. Think through what the implications are of those kind of deals. So.
Yep. Perfect.
I would also say that one of the other, I think out of the box, if we were to say, here's the core apps that you should be pushing down to your devices, I definitely would say that I would, in most cases, you would say, for at least personal use devices, I would push down Authenticator. Though you could also put that, if you were going to do mail, you could push down Outlook. Outlook comes with Authenticator Lite now. So if you didn't want to push down the full Authenticator, you could push down the Outlook app and use Authenticator Lite and still get that MFA experience just baked into the Office or the Outlook app. I've not personally used it. I just have heard about it. So those are things.
Yep.
Yeah, we should get.
So what we're doing here is we're just going to grab the Microsoft Authenticator. You feel free to use Battle.net, but
that's on your personal phone.
Yeah. Well, you could technically use Battle.net with other platforms.
It's true.
I would assume. So we've gone and purchased 10,000 licenses because we're a large organization.
Because they're free.
We're going to now go back over here. And to sync that, we're going to go to Tenant Admin. We're going to go Connectors and Tokens and VPP here. And scroll all the way to the end. And we're going to hit the 3 dots and we're going to hit Sync. Because that was very logical for everybody to remember that, right?
Isn't it amazing that sometimes the buttons are at the top, but then sometimes the buttons are in the little dot at the end? I don't understand the difference.
I'm not going to comment. So then what we have here is now we have that Microsoft Authenticator application. We're going to go here. We're going to go to Properties. We're going
I actually
to go
think it's because there's a row click thing there. If you clicked on it, it would click the row. There's not a select row option, so you have to put the buttons at the other spot.
Yep. Okay. So we've
you just accept that one and move on. That was really fast, though. It came down super fast.
It did. So I've just gone and approved that. I've deployed that out. And now if we go over to the iPhone itself, we unlock it. What we'll see is close that down. We're going to just quickly force it, but this happens pretty quickly either way. What should happen is, I think we did a quirky thing with the
pushing company portal down. Yeah, that's exactly the behavior. It took a while, and I finally. That's exactly. Sorry, I forgot that was the reason why you don't do it. Don't push company portal anymore. If you're going to do the MDM enrollment, it's going to take care of it for you if you're using those settings that we walked through with the modern auth. So don't push it yourself, because then you just get this repeated, never-ending
cycle
thing.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
That's how I got there, Steve, because I was like, why is company portal constantly saying it needs an update? And that was the deal.
So as you can see, it's now popping up and saying, hey, you can edit, but also behind the scenes, you can see the Microsoft Authenticator app installing.
Just like that, man.
All done. Simple.
Easy peasy. So that's it, man. Like, we've enrolled an iOS device. And now we stay tuned, because we're going to tell you how to configure it and do all the other bits and pieces. But ultimately, you've got a managed device now. It's wide open with no other policies and things, but it's fully managed. You can remotely wipe it. You can locate it, all that good stuff.
Yep. If you ever see this message, it's because you actually haven't set up MFA on the phone yet, on the account yet. So that's why I had that message.
I set you up, Steve. Sorry, I knew it was coming.
Yeah. Just to note, if you try to set up MFA on this account, it's going to be set up before you get access to it.
Set what?
Don't try and hack this account.
Okay.
Viewer?
Oh, viewers. Yes, please, viewers, don't. Steve's going to prevent you from setting up MFA on his behalf.
Yeah, it will be set up soon. Awesome. So I think that covers off everything there. Just going to cancel out. Did you see the rebrand?
The what?
The rebrand?
Oh, how about that? It's, there was something I was on the other day where it literally, from like, I saw it said Azure AD still, and then literally I refreshed and it said Azure AD or Intra ID.
Intra ID.
Within the next day or something. I was like, okay, they're catching up. It's still all over the place in the docs. It's going to take forever to go away.
Correct.
I'm just waiting for it to show up in the graph beta endpoint without them telling anybody.
Yes.
Because it's gonna. That's why it's beta. You shouldn't be using this for production. It's not our fault.
I'm not going to go down that route or rabbit hole. Let's wrap the video up there, Adam.
Oh, come on, Steve. Live a little. That's what happens when you move to the dark side. All right, folks. Well, that's it for how to enroll iOS devices. Stick around for the next videos. We're going to be covering Android coming up. Actually, we're going to record that one right after this one, so stay tuned.